A Fallout 76 bug reporter has been hit with the Bethesda Ban Hammer. Hideo Kojima thinks that Americans have misunderstood Death Stranding, and Overwatch director Jeff Kaplan has come out against Blizzard in the blitzchung debate. All of this and more on today's episode of the Roundup. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Roundup episode. As always, be sure to like, sub, and ring that bell to let the YouTube algorithm overlords know that you enjoy the content. And with that said, let's dive in. Blizzard's decision to ban blitzchung was met with overwhelming backlash from fans and even from many staff, with there being actual protests outside Blizzard by employees, but notably, well, the major employees were quiet. Well, Jeff Kaplan, Overwatch game director and Blizzard vice president, caused quite a stir last week when he stated the blitzchung's punishment should be reduced more or eliminated. Speaking to the Washington Post, Kaplan said that he was relieved to hear the blitzchung suspension had been reduced, but that he still believes it should be reduced further or removed altogether. Kaplan noted that the punishment got to him personally, and he reiterated his relief that blitzchung's prize money was returned to him, but still, he overall did not seem that happy. Kaplan emphasized that the decision happened way too quickly, and that he and his team only found out about this incident when they saw it on the news, right? They weren't even told as it was happening internally. Kaplan himself plays a role in discussing suspensions and bans when it comes to the Overwatch League, and he explained that these decisions normally take time to fully consider. In his interview, Kaplan made it pretty darn clear that, he didn't speak on behalf of the Overwatch team, as there are a lot of different reactions among the team, but that still the process should have been longer. Overall, and I think rather importantly, this statement, it means that Kaplan is the first high-level Blizzard employee to speak openly about the suspension, and it's particularly interesting that his comments, they go against the party line as outlined at BlizzCon. I mean, at BlizzCon, Jay Allenbrack offered an apology for their handling of things initially. He admitted that they had moved too quickly in making their decision, but he did confirm the blitzchung's punishment, would not be reverted, and that it was what it was. That's what he said. In post-BlizzCon interviews, with PC Gamer, and despite this, attempt at an apology, I think many rightly don't really think Blizzard have done enough to rectify their actions, and I think it's pretty darn noteworthy that Jeff Kaplan seems to be amongst those people. So it certainly will be interesting to see what happens as this debate goes forward. Blizz have been adamant that staff, players, and content creators are indeed allowed to speak their minds on their own platforms, and certainly what Kaplan's done here is kind of evidence of that. But then again, Blizzard in the past did direct the Dallas Fuel coach Jane to delete a tweet condemning blitzchung's ban. Now that was a good while ago now, but it's unclear just how much leeway there is there and really how much they're willing to stick with that policy. Next, Bethesda have a long history of punishing their most loyal fans, and last week another story emerged, of course, courtesy of, surprise, surprise, Fallout 76. So, the creator of Map 76, a comprehensive map of everything to do with Fallout 76, shared an exploit with Bethesda so that they could patch it. Now, the exploit in question, which the user discovered via a leak confirmed through testing, involved players being able to custom roll legendary weapons by tricking the in-game purveyor into accepting caps. Now, after reporting the exploit, the Map 76 creator's account was banned the next day. Now, the user details that 4 members of their data mining group have also been banned as a result of their bug reporting efforts. They also write that these accounts were not suspended for the same thing. One member of the group discovered a security flaw where passwords were being stored in plain text if logged in through the exe, and an emergency fix went live for this shortly afterwards, which indicates the severity of the issue. That Bethesda took the report seriously, but then the reporting account was banned not long afterwards. And experiences with Bethesda customer support have been mixed, with only 2 of the banned members actually receiving a response. One member was unbanned, but warned that any further violations would prompt a permanent suspension. Then the Map 76 creator, they've just not heard anything about their ban in weeks, and they, I think, rightly feel like they're being ignored by customer support. Less successful still were their attempts to secure a refund for their Fallout First subscription. So the user writes that they tried to refund their membership because the service was, quote, not what was promised, but the Bethesda ignored their initial requests. Now, a response did eventually arrive stating that a refund would not be issued because the user had already spent some of the included atoms with the subscription. And after further back and forths, Bethesda customer service agreed to refund the user's purchase of Fallout First. Now, the confirmation email, it pretty much reads that Bethesda made an exception in issuing the refund, though, which does suggest that refunds are not going to be readily available for Fallout 4 subscriptions, which, I mean, is worrying considering their track record of actually delivering and things. But as it stands, Map 76 is offline. The creator has removed it in frustration, and this refund debacle seems to have been the final straw for them, with the user writing that Bethesda would rather keep $14 than, lose a dedicated fan who had spent hundreds of dollars in Atoms, developed community tools to help the Fallout 76 community, and helped fix bugs. And given their track record of dealing with their most dedicated fans, I mean, it's right on brand for Bethesda. The fact that people would be reporting critical bugs that need to be fixed that Bethesda had not caught, and that those people are getting punished, that is absolutely ridiculous. And it goes against, say, Rockstar issuing a bug bounty, I believe, for their launcher, where they would reward people for actually finding bugs and reporting them. So, as always, Bethesda just mess it up every time. Next up, though, a story that I think is just really stupid. Death Stranding's critical response has been mixed, and that's hardly a surprise given the game's, I think, inherently polarizing nature. Now, a glance at the, say, Metacritic page, right, so it was a score of 83, a 7.0 user score, but if you actually look at the range of reviews, well, it's pretty large. There's, a 35 out of 100. There's a perfect score, right? Point is, the game's not for everyone, and I think that should be fine. Hideo Kojima, though, doesn't agree, and he's weighed in on the game's reception, on a few different occasions, but the most recent one in an interview with Italian site TGCom24, he stated that American publications have been stronger in their criticism than European and Japanese outlets, and he goes on to say that, quote, maybe Death Stranding is a game that is too difficult to understand for a certain type of critic or audience. Americans are big fans of first-person shooters, and Death Stranding isn't one. It flies higher. I mean, it's an absurd level of snobbery to come from him of all people. Now look, I do get playing into stereotypes of American media consumption, and I get it, I'm sick of popcorn media, but frankly, Kojima's writing is stiff as a plank, Sam Bridges controls like a tank, there's so much hackery in his work, and it's a glorified fetch quest. Yeah, it's a bit arty, it's got a great score and a great atmosphere, it's got that heavy-handed Kojima theming that makes people weak at the knees, but by no means is it the second coming of anything. I think the auteur fanboying has just got to the man's head. Death Stranding is an interesting curio that was excellently marketed with a few okay ideas. I don't think it's got much more than that. Yeah, it's a bit of a divisive game, and I don't think Kojima really has... I don't think he's going to, make any friends or just come across being reasonable, looking down his nose that much. And look, I get it. I'm normally the first to, do a bit of, sniping at some American media consumption habits, but I think, the way that he's doing that there, it's just silly. There's no need for it. Plus, let's just pick a few counterexamples out of a hat. Bioshock Infinite, first-person shooters, a lot of thinking going on, sold extremely well in the US. Cyberpunk 2077, also a first-person shooter. Kojima, you're being silly. Come on, wise up. Next up, though, Take-Two Interactive had their quarterly earnings call last week, and it's been a pretty darn strong year for them. Recurrent user spending grew 39% and accounted for 45% of total net bookings. Then going over to digital, well, net bookings increased by 63%, with GTA Online being 73% of the total. Digital sales were up 47% year on year, with a 51% of console sales now being digital, which will be major for them. Now, the biggest release of the year has been NBA 2K20. Sales were up 9% on the previous title, and it was the highest launch month sales of any sports game in history. Which is a bit wild. This is a game that released in a barely functional state and was kind of slathered with casino mechanics. But yeah, NBA 2K is now the 6th largest game franchise in the world by dollar sales, so there's that. Then recurrent spending is also up 32%, daily active users 20%, and My Team, their sort of FIFA Ultimate Team-like thing, is up 150%. Pretty insane. Overall, though, things are looking well across the board for Take-Two. Borderlands 3 sold 5 million copies in the first 5 days, and 70% of those sales were digital, which is a new record for a 2K cross-platform title. Retail sell-through was up 50% on Borderlands 2, and engagement is expected to strengthen further with the launch of Google Stadia. I mean, I don't really think it will, but oh well. Red Dead Online is also gaining momentum apparently, and they're pretty excited about it. Now on the Rockstar front, GTA 5 has 115 million lifetime sales, with GTA Online seeing its best quarter yet, with an increase in daily, weekly, and monthly active users. This summer also saw the highest ever peak for new users, and a 23% increase in player spending was a new GTA Online record. Then Red Dead Redemption 2 has sold about 26.6 million units. Its PC launch has marked a pretty darn strong start to Q3, which is expected to continue through the Stadia release. The call concluded then with a brief discussion of the Outer Worlds. So Take-Two aren't releasing specific numbers just yet, but the game is said to be outperforming expectations and is reviewing well. It's also due to hit the Nintendo Switch sometime in Q1 2020, and their expectations for that release are pretty high. And with that, let's wrap up with some upcoming releases, and it's pretty simple. Friday is a big day across platforms with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Pokemon Sword and Shield, the latter of which is already getting cut to pieces based on early leaks of removed abilities and a greatly cut down Pokemon roster. Certainly I know that the Pokemon fans in my friend circle are not happy about it, including the sort of real diehard apologist types. It's even managed to flip them, so yeah, Game Freak are seemingly in for it come Friday. Anyway, there you go, that's it for today's edition of the Roundup. Of course, we also had another report on AI and Face It, which I think you'll find quite interesting, that went up today as well. So thank you very much for watching, and with that, I will see you next time.